Welcome back to the Empowering Minds Mental Health Podcast. I am your host, Jennifer Moore, and today I'm really excited about today's conversation. I am joined by Dr. Rita Renee, someone who has spent decades helping women find their voice, whether if it's in leadership, ministry, business, or public speaking. She wears a lot of hats. She's a TEDx speaker, coach, author, ministry leader. But what stood out to me most is her passion for helping women come off mute. So, Dr. Rita, before we get into the work that you do now, can you tell us a little bit about your journey and how your voice has evolved over time?
Yes, thank you so much for having me here on your platform and being part of your audience. Yes, as growing up from the age of 5 to age of 10, I was molested by my uncle, and that silenced my voice. I held a lot of things in. I tried to keep my emotions intact. I felt like that I was I was on this journey and it was difficult and I couldn't share it with anybody. I was ashamed.
Mhm.
And as I got older, remember the date. It was when I was 10 years old and my uncle tried to approach me and the inner strength from my faith just said, no more, you're not going to touch me anymore. And that began my journey of unmuting. And as I developed as a young woman, there were still some things I still couldn't cope with. And for example, I was in a marriage where I had bleach put in my contact solution. I had women who were having affairs with my husband, and I didn't take it out on them, right? I didn't take it out on them because they gave them the permission. But one of the things I thought about was how many of us as women, we are going through something alone. We are kept in silence. We don't move forward because we don't want the skeletons in our closet to come out. And because we haven't healed. And so I began this journey of unmuting. Once I began to go through my own healing journey, I wanted others to feel the same freedom that I felt through my faith, but also the recognizing that that was part of my journey. However, I didn't have to accept that part of my journey. I didn't have to wear the crown of that part of my journey, but it did build some resilience and it did build me to the place where I can now help other women come off mute, come out of the shadows, come out off the sidelines and come on stages and tell their authentic stories without any shame or apologies.
Okay. So, thank you for sharing your story of resilience. So, it sounds like once you came to that point of your life where you wanted to unmute, it led you to a point of like liberty and freedom.
Absolutely. And not just for me, for other women. And I
Hmm.
remember sitting in church and I remember there were some women that when I was telling my story, my journey, there were older women. I'm saying these are women who were like 70 plus, seasoned women who were crying. And I found out later is that they had similar journeys as myself. I had a miscarriage. I had an abortion. All of those things, they're in my books. I don't mind sharing that. And I'm free from all that. God has forgiven me. I'm moving forward to help other women. But these ladies were carrying this guilt and this shame in their lives, even in their 70s. And I saw how they looked, and I did not want to see myself as a reflection of that later on as I got older.
Hmm. It's so ironic you're mentioning church, and yesterday during service, a lot of, well, women and men, but
Hmm.
more women, I would say, a lot of us came off of unmute
Mm,
yesterday about a lot of different, things might be related to brokenness or
right.
substance abuse or, being
Mhm.
sexually assaulted.
Yes.
And it was so refreshing. Like I really felt like 10 or 15 pounds had been lifted off
Wow.
of my body. So getting to that point to unmute is very important. And so with that coming off mute, you've talked about it a little bit, but I just want you to elaborate a little bit more about why it's so powerful for women today to come off mute,
Mhm.
especially in building mental resilience.
Absolutely. So coming off mute means reclaiming your voice after seasons of silence, whether that silence was imposed by trauma, expectations, faith misuse, culture, or self-doubt. For many women, silence wasn't a choice, it was a survival. But survival is not the same as living. And
Mm-hmm.
mental resilience, because I went through my mental trauma, I went through depression, is built the moment a woman stops internalizing pain and starts externalizing truth. And so when women speak, when they name experiences, when they set boundaries, the mind begins to heal, and silence can no longer be trapped in that pain, and their voice is released. So silence may protect you temporarily, but the voice is what heals you permanently. And
Yep.
mental resilience grows when women stop shrinking to stay safe and start speaking to stay whole.
Hmm. Yeah, I absolutely agree with you. I've worked in mental health about 20 some years, and I've had my own journey too. And you're absolutely right. Just that silent was like a temporary band-aid.
Mm-hmm.
But once I started, one, I didn't even want to address the root cause
Right.
because it hurt me just that bad. But
Yes.
once I started kind of peeling that band-aid off,
Mm-hmm.
I can't explain. I mean, it's almost like a calming, like a peace
Yeah.
started to come over my life. And I still have certain areas that I'm working on, but the key is resilience. And that's just something that I work towards every day. And I hope that the women who watch this later, I hope that they will take that into perspective too, that that's something that they can continue to work on.
Mm-hmm.
And so I want to ask you, what's your take on women in ministry leadership,
Mm-hmm.
blessings and barriers, and how does faith support emotional healing?
So women in women leadership experience both sacred privileges and silent pressures. They have the
Hmm.
privilege of doing this ministry, but then they have the silent pressure on them to make sure they perform. So the blessing is the calling to teach, to nurture, to lead with compassion. The barrier is the expectation without support, like severe in this suffering quietly, smile by being faithful. We taught all that, smile while you serve, no, bleed while you serving and all that, right? So
Hmm.
true faith does not demand emotional suppression, though. Biblical faith invites honesty, lament, rest, healing, and God never asked women to bleed in silence for the sake of appearance. Faith becomes emotionally restorative when it allows women to bring their whole self, not just their service, to the altar. So God never called women to be invisible in ministry. He called them to be faithful, healed, and whole. And so faith heals emotionally when women are permitted to lead without losing themselves.
I like that answer. You hit something that really resonated with me when you said healed emotionally. And
Mm-hmm.
when you get to that point, well, for me, I have been more effective in
Right.
speaking engagements at church. I've just been more, I feel like my voice matters.
Yes.
And I enjoy being able to maybe help empower my sister,
Yes.
in Christ. And so that is a good point to get to, being healed emotionally.
Absolutely.
Yeah,
Yeah. Hurt people can't help people.
absolutely. Absolutely. So I know you wear a lot of hats. So I want to ask you, because I need to learn this from you. How do you juggle leadership in business, ministry, your family life, while prioritizing your mental wellness?
Right. Well, I don't juggle, I prioritize, and that's the key. And that's different. So juggling
Mm-hmm.
implies chaos. So I don't deal with chaos. And I
Gotcha.
align, yeah, my alignment creates space. So mental wellness comes when roles are integrated, not competing. So anything is going to be competing with my mental health or my family or my faith, then that's not a priority for me. And so I
Mhm.
learned that rest is not a reward for productivity, it is a requirement for sustainability. And boundaries protect purpose. So I schedule margins, I honor the quiet time, I recognize that burnout is not a badge of faith or honor or leadership, it's a warning sign. So you don't have to do everything to be effective, and you don't have to do the right things without losing yourself. And
Mhm.
mental wellness is not found in balance, it's found in alignment and persistence. permission to pause. So you have to give yourself permission to pause.
Absolutely. Well, I uh former burnout queen. I really I had a hard time. Like I would prioritize things, but I
Hmm.
had a hard time telling people no. And I would already know, okay, well, I have this and I have this, and but well, let me go ahead and help them because
Hmm.
I don't know why I would feel bad that I
That's
couldn't
because
help someone.
you didn't prioritize yourself.
I didn't. I didn't. I have
And you have to
learned
not forget yourself when you prioritize.
that's exactly what I was doing. And I have learned, especially within the last year or so, there is such a huge difference
Hmm.
between rest and sleep.
Yes.
And now, I don't have problems telling someone that I'm not able to assist them with whatever it is they've asked me to do at that time because I just need the rest. I need to pour into me.
Hmm.
I'm a mother, I'm a Gigi, I'm a daughter. So, I have multiple roles that I need to be effective
Right.
and
And present.
impactful. And I can't do that if I'm burnt out.
Absolutely.
Yep. All right. So next question. Why should women of faith have a voice in politics and public policy? And how does that combat mental health stigma?
Yeah. So we know there has been a culture shift, with
Yes.
um, the last actions in public policies and things of that nature in our communities. And my thing is, for me as a believer, I don't vote on personality, I vote on policies. So women
Hmm.
of faith belong in a public space because policy affects people, families, and communities, especially women. So faith brings moral clarity. It's not a personality thing.
Hmm.
We're as believers, we just look at the word. This is God's word. And so we bring that moral clarity. And if we don't have that, we can't be effective in our communities. And we also bring compassion and we bring consciousness into conversations that often lack all three. So when women of faith speak openly, they normalize conversations around trauma, mental health, caregiving,
Hmm.
dignity, and they silence, it fuels that stigma. If we be quiet about mental health, we be quiet about policies, we be quiet about these things, it fuels a stigma that people don't want to address. So our voices disrupt that. Advocacy is not political rebellion, it's moral responsibility. And so women of faith, we need to we can't stay silent anymore. And when women of faith do stay silent, the stigma wins. But when they speak, when we all open our mouths, healing enters that policy and it affects it and it moves it in a direction that will be helpful to our communities. So a faithful voice in public spaces doesn't divide, it humanizes.
Well, that was powerful. I'm just writing down some little nuggets of what you just said because I needed that. I did. And so I want to talk a little bit more too. What do you think stops most women from speaking publicly, and how do they get past it to advocate for wellness?
So most women aren't afraid of speaking, they just are afraid of judgment.
Yep,
They're
you're
afraid of
absolutely right.
judgment. Absolutely. They're afraid of
Hmm.
judgment. They're afraid of rejection, being misunderstood. And many were conditioned to believe that their voice is too much. They're too emotional. They're not qualified enough. So the breakthrough comes from when women are stop asking for permission and start honoring purpose. So confidence doesn't come um, before the action, right? It comes because of it. So advocacy begins when the women realize that her story is not a liability; it's a lifeline for someone. Our testimony is something that someone needs to still cling on, to still have hope, right? So
Hmm.
your voice isn't loud; it's just overdue. And so when we move past the fear by understanding that silence costs more than courage, wherever cost us.
Well, Dr. Rita, you've been in my mailbox or my inbox because you a lot of what you have said has definitely resonated with me. Um, I do agree with you. I think, well, I know for me, and I still deal with this a little bit.
Mhm.
I am afraid of how others may receive me or the judgment part.
Mhm.
And so it got to the point where I had stayed silent for so long that
Mhm.
when I began to kind of come out of that shell, I had developed a stutter. Yeah.
Mhm.
So I
Mhm.
had to ask God to help me with that. And he has. And so now I'm just I'm definitely more vocal than I was a
Mhm.
year ago, for
Right.
sure. Yeah.
Yeah,
And
the
it
truth will
helps me
always
to.
stand, and you have that compassion, and you coming from that loving heart. And I will say too, is align yourself. Anybody that's listening, align yourself that with people who have the same beliefs as you. And sometimes it's going to be new people, not going to be the same people. Our problem sometimes is, we love our community, we love the people, our families,
Mhm.
and sometimes we have to be ye separated. And a lot of
That's true.
people, it's a hard that's hard to do.
That is true. That is true. Okay, well, that was all of my questions that I had, but I want to leave whatever time you
Mhm.
take your time. I wanted to leave the final moments with you. If you have like any resonating thoughts that you want the viewers to take from you, if you have any books that you've written or any contact information where people may reach out to you, if you provide any type of services around leadership coaching.
Sure, absolutely. So what I would say in closing is that healing happens when women stop whispering their truth and start standing in it. And
Hmm.
you have a story to tell, and it will impact the people around you. You don't
Hmm.
have to shrink just so somebody else can shine. And I've been in that kind of circle where you start shining and then everybody start leaving. It's okay. You can be
Hmm.
yourself, in love and compassion. Nobody's trying to be arrogant, but you have your story and your truth, and nobody can take that away from you. And if you ever want to contact me, you can contact me on all of the platforms. It's at Dr. Rita Renee. That's my website as well, drritarenee.com. I have a plethora of books that can help you. One of them is Powerhouse Speaker Unmute. That is a great one of my latest books. Also, I did a book on my journey of all the challenges that I went through that made me the resilient woman and faithful woman of God that I am, and that is Stay in the Ring, Knocked Down but Not Knocked Out. And there's a variety of other books, whether you're in business or not, and their coaching services. If you're interested, you can go to my website and find out more information.
Well, I definitely look forward to going to your website and purchasing your book so I can take some of those applications and, apply them in my life too. And so I want to thank you for agreeing to come on today. You have helped me to inspire, impact, um, and that's mainly what the podcast is about. I like to just empower and encourage people as much as I can because a lot of people have poured into me over, especially within the last year or so. A lot of people have been very influential. And so I thank you for helping me to do that, to hopefully inspire and empower other women as well.
Likewise, thank you so much for having me here.
Thank you. All right. I'll be in touch with you soon.
Bye bye.
Take care.